Some things you just don't comply with. Don't really want to say goodbye, but some things you just don't comply with.
Man, got the metronome going. He making. I know I got beats. You like making beats out of the talking format, man. You know what I'm saying?
You got to start the tempo for the conversation.
I was gonna say, yeah, I like that. We're gonna get into the whole the health aspect of things again. We did one episode on that, but we're gonna touch upon it again in this one. You know?
So this is the lead up to the Whole 30 we'll be doing next month and working with a personal trainer.
Yeah.
But there's a couple things, we just want to touch bases as we go along with this. And we didn't really get into the intermittent fasting, which is something we both practice and we found super beneficial, especially with conserving those calories and being able to have like some satisfying meals and not feeling like you're skimping through the day. So we're just going to be talking about like relationship with food.
Man, it's huge.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be kind of one of the focus points. And then intermittent fasting. And then what else? Caloric intake kind of
just
stuff.
Changing your relationship with food. I mean, he's right about the intermittent fasting, man, because for me, that was a game changer. It really was. I mean, especially since I'm aging, right? I mean, I'm getting into younger, so, I have to kind of watch the way that I deal with things. Intermittent fasting helped out a lot. I'd say probably the last, 5 years. Mm-hmm. But, again, I mean, the thing that's helped out, even more than that prior to that was just off top changing my relationship with food. And I think that's something, me and you talked about that earlier, dude, how we kind of, in this country, we take food for granted. Not all of us, because not everybody has food to eat all the time, but it's not uncommon for most Americans to have ready access to food, be it at the store, at a restaurant, or refrigerators, even in our lunchbox, man.
Yeah, just about anything you want to eat for most people is readily available, and sometimes what you have available isn't necessarily the best thing to eat too. So there's all kinds of.
That's true though, bro. I was gonna say,
situations.
And then the thing about it is just being, I don't know. For me, it started out with a couple different things. It was kind of like I used to eat, because you kind of, when you're younger, you don't think about that. You just eat whatever, or you eat what you like, right? I mean, that's the whole idea, And
yeah, you eat what you like, hopefully, and then you eat what your parents give you the rest of the time,
True. And sometimes it's both, though. Sometimes you can, it's what your parents gave you and what you like, but definitely not always when you're a kid. I think everybody can relate to that. But as an adult, man, like we talked about last time, we're not. It changed because we have to go to work and we have other things to do. We don't just wake up and go play every day. We don't go to school and have a recess every day, right?
Yeah.
So the physical activity component is something that tends to drop off a bit.
Yeah. No doubt. And I think that, even though these stressors in our life, like going to work and, raising a family, are positive things you've chose to do, things you want to do.
No doubt.
Hopefully, so a lot of times those forms of stress are considered e-stress because it's stress that you're willingly taking on, that you want to, that you like the end result of. But I think that those situations can throw our bodies into distress. The two opposite forms of stress, distress being the negative form. And they say that, stress in our lives is one of the main things that'll cause hunger spikes.
Stress causes a lot of things.
It causes a lot of things, but man, I think everybody's been stressed out and just grab something to eat because it's kind of instant gratification, right? It's an instant reward.
And that's the key right there, bro. And that's what I'm talking about, changing that relationship, recognizing that you can't do that with food. You have to appreciate and understand that, it's nothing wrong with eating what you want when you want to eat it, but it can't be a constant thing because, again, like I was just saying a couple minutes ago, when our lives change as we, enter and go further and further into adulthood, the fact that we're changing the physical activity component because of the other things that tend to take precedence, you can start to see the effects. And I think we all know what I mean in that regard, right?
Oh, yeah. No doubt. That's why, like, the calorie tracker I use, the Under Armour app, the Fitness Pal, they take many things into consideration, like your age, your height, your current weight, your activity level, because I've had to switch my activity level up because there's times where I'm skating more, I'm going for more walks and I'm more active, but lately I've been working on music a lot and editing this podcast, so I mean that's a lot of sitting around, so I'm pretty much just taking the dog for a walk, so I've had to like switch my activity level on there. So I went from like a 3,000 calorie a day to sustain me at like, I think it's like 180, 6'3". So I'm 6'3", 180. Okay. So for me, with like kind of lower activity level for myself, I'm still walking over a mile a day, but that's kind of lower for me. It's about 2,700 calories. And that's going to range for each person depending on your height, your activity level, and your weight. But I mean, that's and when I'm more active, it gives me about 3,000 calories to eat a day. So these are just things to consider. That sounds like small little tiny details, but I mean,
the devil's in the details, though.
Devil's in the details, bro.
And then also, dude, look, like a lot of times, what I was going to say is like, it's going to vary from person to person. So someone might look at us and be like, oh, well, that's easy. Cause I mean, that plays a part, but I mean, everybody has to understand that fitness, diet, healthy, all that stuff, it's gonna look different. It's got a multitude of guises. A lot of times it's gonna be what you're like. I was thinking about this when I was taking my notes for this. You find the foods that you respond to better. Like, are you gonna always eat things that make you tired? Probably not, right? I mean, are you gonna always eat things that?
I mean, if you don't have like really good awareness, then yeah, you could be, and then you might not be identifying the problem why you have low energy, and not saying that, bro, it's probably because of my diet.
Well, diet plays a part in so many different things. I had one of my boys, Roger Badillo, guy I used to work with years ago. He was a little bit bigger than you. I'd say Roger's probably about maybe just around the neighborhood of 6'4", or maybe even your height. But he was a pretty good sized dude. I'd say Roger, he could easily walk around at about 185, 192 within.
That's pretty slim for someone that tall.
Oh, well, then maybe I'd say I'm not good at guessing weight. I would say then he would at least be around the neighborhood of 200 pounds.
Yeah, I'd say that sounds about.
He was a good sized dude. He wasn't like, but he was like, he was just a regular. He was a taller guy, but he was, he wasn't like a beanpole. But one of the things that he was determined to do, and I remember when he told me this, I was just thinking like in my mind, like, no, bro. He's like, I'm going to show that you can eat bad food and still be healthy. It's like, so I'm going to the gym every day. I'm like, dude, you recognize that a lot of what you're eating is going to be, counterintuitive and counterproductive to your work in the gym. People have to understand that diet, it determines so many aspects of our lives, man. Even our mental health to a degree. And our, like certain foods, they don't contribute to your, like you eat certain things, right? Or if you have like if your gut health is not in a good state, better yet. But it's just tied to food. Gut health can actually tie into like depression and stuff like that.
Bro, it's just all connected, right? You got one part of your motor that's not running well. It's all the other signals are having to work harder, to compensate. So I mean, you're running your system not optimal, you know what I mean? So it's not going to be optimal.
And that's where learning about, and exactly. I mean, and to a lot of people, it seems like, or you might hear us talking about some of the things, but like, duh. But I mean, the first thing is, how many of us are really doing a lot of these things that we might hear about? Well, that makes sense, but your habits may be something other than that thing that makes sense, right? And the other thing is like, what things are you doing to try and cultivate good habits? Or even when you see something that's not right, are you taking into account what you are eating or what you aren't eating enough of, or what you should be eating, or even what's in the stuff that you're normally eating? We have to understand that there's a lot of things in our food that's not exactly food. And our body's like, what is this?
Yeah.
So.
No doubt. Yeah, and I think it's really having a balance, because I think people will go from like unhealthy eating habits, think they just got to get rid of everything. And I really think for me, it's been a balance, right? Because there's certain foods. It's like you can eat unhealthy foods, like your buddy was saying.
Of course, we all have stuff like that.
But if you're staying within a certain calorie ratio, like say you got 3,000 calories you can eat in a day. So maybe you intermittent fast till 2:00. And then for lunch, where you're breaking your fast, you have the cheeseburger, fries, and a shake. That might be like 1,200 calories, right? So at 2 p.m. you've already
more than that.
Probably more than that, maybe 14, right? So you've had almost half your calories, right? But you waited till 2 p.m.
Yep.
And now since you waited till 2 p.m. and ate at 2 p.m., you're now full, most likely with that kind of a calorie dense fat grease, you're probably good for 6 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So then you get to 8, 9 o'clock when maybe you're feeling hungry again, and then you eat that meal. And I mean, dude, you still have, plus you've probably burnt some calories for the day. So you still have at least 16, maybe 100 calories for your last meal. And dude, for 1,600 calories, you could eat pretty much half a pizza.
Facts, man. And that's
so say that's your diet for the day, right?
Yep.
You stayed within your calorie ratio.
You did.
But you're not giving yourself all the macronutrients, like the right amount of fiber, right?
Exactly.
So if you don't have the right amount of fiber, you're going to have issues. If you're not getting, if you're not getting enough protein, you're going to feel hungry more often. If you're not getting this right amount of fat, you're going to feel hungry more often, because the fat's what sustains us a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? Like,
man, I just wanted to, I had to jump in on this, because a lot of times people think every calorie is not the same. You have to understand that.
Yeah.
A fat calorie and a sugar calorie are not the same. And people have to understand, how your body's going to react to certain calories. And then also, like you said, people are like, oh, I'm not going to eat carbs. I'm like, okay, but carbs are necessary. They're a vehicle for other types of...
it's wood for the fire, you know what I mean?
Well, exactly. But the thing about it is, like, if you eat carbs constantly, then your body's going to be burnt through them, because all there is a complex sugar. It's not that carbs are bad and they cause you to gain weight. It's just that you have to understand, what did they say when we were kids? A balanced diet. Mm-hmm. Eating carbs all day is not a balanced diet, right? So you have to figure out what you said, like about the macronutrients and stuff like that, and even recognizing what is an empty calorie and what isn't. There's so many different ways, and I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I got to say, like I said earlier, what's healthy, what's a good diet, and all these things, everybody's going to do it a little bit different. We'll implement it a little bit different. It's going to look different from person to person, right? So, in one regard, that's good, because it shows you that you have a ton of options. But at the same time, you have to stay realistic and recognize that, you're going to have to give your body what it needs, on a regular basis. Maybe not with every single meal, but you have to recognize that your body's going to need and want certain things, and you have to try and, like you said, balance it. What were you going to say, bro?
Yeah, and I think that's great, because then you don't get burnt out. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely, when I first started using the FitnessPal app, I definitely cut a few things out. Like, I wasn't as knowledgeable. Like, I was kind of at the beginning of my journey into like learning like better eating habits and how to actually stay fit and like tracking my calories. But so I did try to get rid of things, right? Like I was like, okay, no cheese. Because cheese for me is an easy thing to overdo it.
A lot of people, man, all that fat, your body's like, yeah, I want that.
Nachos, you know what I mean? Like,
indeed, man,
it's so good. So I didn't really understand calorie stuff, so I was trying to get rid of those things you think you need to get rid of, right? No carbs, no cheese. And then it was like the 90s craze, right? The fat-free craze.
Dude, that's been like that since the 70s, man. They had really ramped, like fat is bad. It's like, okay. And then you get that rash of food where they engineer it and like take all the fat out. It's like, bro, no.
Yeah, bro, it's funny. So you've had all these different stages. And I think that, once I learned, it was the whole calorie thing, right? Because what I was doing is I was trying to starve myself. And I think that's what a lot of us do. Like,
crash diets.
Just crash diets. You can eat less, right? But the thing is like, you're not giving your body the energy. So like, I didn't even have the energy to go exercise, dude.
I was dude,
I was just slumped over, bro. I had like my thinking wasn't working right, and I wasn't happy. I was just, so, if you can learn and you can have a sensible diet, you can still have that good stuff. You know what I mean?
Dude, right there. Sensible.
You can still have it, right?
Yeah, and then when you do that and you have a holistic approach and you incorporate all these things that we're talking about, you recognize it doesn't have to be like going to jail for the rest of your life. I can't eat it. It's not like that. You have to, but the one thing I think that a lot of people don't recognize is it does take a little bit of effort. Like, I don't meal plan, but I still get an idea of what I'm going to eat. I understand how I have mine laid out, but it's going to look different from person to person. But, when you take a more measured approach and a more active approach to eating, you recognize in a lot of cases you can have the best of both worlds. It just takes a bit of action, or a little bit of action and work on the part of the person that's actually doing it. Eating right and finding a good balance between what you like and what you need. It's not just like I hit this button, and it's not like that. You have to actually do the work. And I think that's the problem a lot of people have. They're always looking for that other alternative. Well, this is a sugar substitute. Okay, well, why don't you just try paring down the amount of sugar that you eat, or why don't you just try eating better sources of sugar? There's other ways of doing it, but at the same time, you have to stay within a reality, you know, that that you're going to have to put some effort into trying to make your diet what you want it to be. I mean,
just like anything, right? Like anything that you really want to pursue, there's no just push one button and everything happens. You gotta do the work. But once you figure it out and you get into a system and you find what works best for you,
That's key.
It doesn't have to be like drudgery, you know, or drudgery.
And it should never be, because that's going to be something that's going to dissuade you from doing that. Just like I was saying before, one of the things I can't stand, I don't like scales. I get it that they have a place. You know, I'm not dogging anyone to use the scales, but I don't like them, regardless of what I look like. I never like scales, you know. But another thing aside from scales is just, you know, the idea that that you know, this has to be a negative thing. I mean, like when you put food and shame together, or any type of negativity with eating, it's never a good mix. Like, oh, I ate a cookie, and it's like, did you want the cookie? Yeah. Okay, well then figure out a way to incorporate that cookie, or figure out a way to deal with the fact that you ate that cookie, but in a positive way. You can always add or subtract calories. That's nothing like with the, you know, with the calorie tracking. I mean, you know, you can always kind of supplement. Like, do you want to track your calories on a week to week basis, on a daily basis, on however you want to do it? But you can move your calories around, just like he said. Make sure you're getting the right, you know, macronutrients and things of that sort that you need to continue to sustain your body, you know, in the way that you need to for what you're doing.
Yeah, plus you're not starving yourself either, you know what I mean? Because
that's key.
You know exactly how many calories you've had, how many you can have. And the thing is, too, if you go over one day, like you go out with friends and, you know, you do anything that's like maybe high calorie, sugar, like you eat pizza, you drink beer, burger, fries,
or both.
Whatever, or all the above.
Yeah.
You know, if you add that in, you're like, man, I went like 800 calories over, or any amount over. If you could do that in a week period, and you could just be like, okay, so I had one day where I had
just went ham.
So you don't have
with the ham.
Yeah, you don't have to hit. Yeah, you don't have to hit your calorie mark on a day-to-day basis. You can push it out to a week basis. You know what I mean? And honestly, bro, I have a day where I like eat a lot of that kind of food. The next day, bro, I'm usually good until like late in the day to eat, because I had all this high fat, you know, food, like salty food and stuff. So I'm usually not hungry, and it's a lot easier to do a fast the next day, which then pushes my meals out, which then makes it easier to consume less calories.
It builds, man. It builds. That's exactly the thing. And that's the thing, is like when you do that, you know, one of the biggest components of that, again, it goes back to what I said about changing your relationship with food. When you change your relationship with food, you work to develop a degree of discipline to where you're not a slave to your hunger response. It's not like, I got to get, you know, it's like, wait a minute, you know, take a more educated approach, you know, a more rational, you know, well thought out approach to what you're going to do when you take those calories in. Yeah.
Because depending on your personality, man, I know that I'm one of those people that would get hunger spikes throughout the day. I know some people that they don't even think about food. They almost have to be reminded to eat. You know what
That's
I mean?
me sometimes.
See, I'm not one of those people. I'm the people that really has to like, because I can gain weight like really easy. Like I can fluctuate really fast. I'm not one of those people that is just always been able, like, you know, never like always been skinny. Like, or
yeah, like kind of like a hard gainer when it comes to lifting weights.
Yeah, I really feel like I had to like figure some things out. So hunger spikes are something that can happen throughout the day, and a lot of times I mean, so fair warning, right? I don't want anybody to like not eat when they feel like they could pass out, right?
Yeah,
like
because blood sugar is a huge, like, don't mess with that.
Don't mess with blood sugar.
He's like, I'm not going to eat. I'm going to stay at my calories. Like, don't do that. Eat.
Yeah. But if, you know, you've talked to your doctor, you feel like, you know, this is something you can try, then that's kind of where I'm explaining it at that point. So, you know, with the intermittent fasting, where you get these hunger spikes, right? And a lot of times, like when I researched hunger spikes and understood them, it was kind of like, you know, it explained it as you'll have these surges where you just feel like super hungry, right?
Okay.
But if you can, like, maybe you drink a glass of water or whatever, or you can identify like, oh man, I'm really stressed out right now. When I'm stressed out, I just want to grab a donut because it makes me feel good.
Most definitely.
So you can be aware that you're having these hunger spikes. And a lot of that is awareness. Like, no, I ate a healthy breakfast. No, I'm good. You know, so just being aware of like your own situation. So you can watch these hunger spikes go up to the top, and you can just be aware that it is a hunger spike. I mean, I can testament to being there and then having to go back down, and literally like a half an hour to where from when I felt just like I was starving, at half an hour later, just like waiting out the hunger spike, checking my emotional state, bro, I wasn't even hungry.
Bro,
and I got distracted by working on something, and then I ended up not eating for like another 2 hours. So this is like not something where I don't want, encourage people not to eat and pass out.
It's just personal experience that people can definitely relate to.
Yeah, and I've had to work up to it, right? I mean, I think 12 hours, a lot of people will fast for 12 hours just because of the time you finish dinner and the amount of time you sleep.
That's kind of how I do it.
Yeah.
But and then I don't eat in a day, but go ahead, excuse me.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of people just end up fasting maybe just because of their normal stuff. I talk to some people, they're like, oh, I do that anyways. You know what I mean? So some people
funny, right?
Just do it without trying. You know what I mean? Because they're just like, I'm not a breakfast person, or I only eat one meal a day. You know what I mean? But for me, like, it was an instinct to wake up and not even think about where I was at the moment. I was just like, I'm gonna eat some food right away. But when I did try the intermittent fasting, I went, the 12 hours was pretty easy because you're asleep for most of it.
Indeed, yes.
And then the 14 hours, like I got, for the first few weeks, I was like getting to 14 hours, right? Yeah. And that's where I started to feel like, oh man, like, and part of that too was because of the calories the day before I was eating weren't hanging over.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, that's a serious game changer. Yeah.
Or the right amount of fat even.
Yep.
Or the right sources. You know what I mean? So once I switched that up, bro, I got into like a 16-hour fast. It's like, oh, this isn't too bad. And then I watched another video that was really encouraging, and it was about like getting into something right away, like whatever you're really into. It could be work too. Sometimes work, we want to be distracted from work, so we want to eat because we're somewhere where we don't want to be. But I don't know, man. Like, I'll start working on music, and it'll be like 2 o'clock, and I haven't eaten, and because my mind is occupied,
exactly,
and in a place of like, I want it to be like creativity, and part of it's being mindful too.
Man,
you know what I mean? Because I wake up and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have some coffee, and I'll usually just drink my coffee like black with no cream.
Yeah.
And stuff. And then, man, I love those days when I fast because, bro, then it's like, what's really great, what I love about fasting is you're not trying to stretch your calorie amount throughout the whole day and having these like what might feel like unsatisfying meals. You're like,
exactly,
I'm having this little thing here, then I'll have this another little thing. It's like by 2
o'clock. It's almost like messing with, like, you're picking on yourself.
Yeah, bro.
You're like just a little. You're like, bro, I need something to eat.
Yeah. Because, man, I mean, the days I wait till 2 o'clock and I have 3,000 calories to eat for the rest of the day, and you might be watching, be like, oh man, if I could eat 3,000 calories, that'd be easy. But the thing is you might be 5'6", so 1,800 calories might feel like 3,000 calories to you.
Exactly.
Same for me, just because we're over 6 foot, so we gotta operate over 6 foot. You know what I mean? Like, you need,
and especially if we're like, when I run. And this kind of goes into that too. When I run, it just spikes up. One of the things that goes back to a relationship with food and developing discipline over your perceived hunger response is the idea that you learn to tailor your caloric intake to your activity level. It's like you said with the music, right? But when I start running, man, I start eating like crazy. And when I run and lift, it gets worse. Not worse, but I'm just saying, like, I'm like, so then I have to learn to pare it back sometimes when I'm running and lifting, because I recognize I reach a point where sometimes I get hunger spikes, right?
Oh yeah, the cardio will make me hungry too, bro. Like a long bike ride, I'll get home, and the thing that sounds the best is like potato chips, salty potato chips, and
your body's
soda,
craving
bro.
that fat.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's a lot of people don't realize. Even people, real quick, even people who do jobs where they think a lot, when you think, it'll actually tax you to the point where you develop an appetite too. I remember when I used to work as a test tech, working on DEP equipment. Some days I'd be troubleshooting and figuring out problems and robot this and robot that all day, man. I would leave work and I'd be like, I want a steak and fries and a cheeseburger, right? Because you just start craving that fat, because my brain's been going all day. you know, and I might have had a halfway decent lunch, you know what I'm saying? Nothing too spectacular though, but just something to kind of keep me moving. Cause you know, you get so focused on what you're doing and you're like, oh yeah, eat. Okay. It becomes an afterthought, like you said. But then when I'm done and I have that time to stop, my body's like, man, go eat all the things. You know, like my girl then used to say back in the day, go eat all the things, you know? It's just, it's crazy how that can happen. So again, without me going off on a tangent, like I always do, it's imperative to work on developing your discipline, be it with learning intermittent fast or even full day fast in 12 hours, however many hours you do, and then learn that you could, because what it is, you learn to tame your hunger response, and then you learn to take a pause for a second and inject a bit of cognition into your decision for what you're going to eat. Right? You don't want to just keep, because you don't want eating to be a habit. You want it to be something that you recognize as, like I was telling Luke earlier, it's an event, you know?
Yeah.
Not, what are you going to say?
I mean, like, yeah, food is a blessing. You know
it is,
what I mean?
man. It is.
So it's easy to take for granted when you've got it all over the place. I mean, think about like all the food, you know, we put our nose up at, where, man, if we were starving, I'd eat that in a second, you know what I mean?
Real talk, bro. And that's not, hey, look, and we realize that everybody's not made out of money, so.
Bro, I'll attest to that right now. I'm not operating on some big shopping budget.
Well, bro, you know what? Join the club.
At all.
But at the same time, you know, you do the best that you can, you know, and see, and that's even where an intelligent and a more thought out approach helps even more, because you're like, okay, I only had this to work with. So you got to make each calorie count, you know what I'm saying, until you're balling again. You know?
Yeah. Then you go hit up then you go hit up the whole paycheck.
Yeah, well, you know, however you do it.
Yeah.
But what it is, but there's something to be said about that too, though, bro, because when you don't have a lot of options, you get crafty. You're like, you know, I don't want to be eating all this crap, but how can I, you know, you figure out how to balance it. And then, but when you know more about, again, your macronutrients and other types of things that your body needs and the amount of money or whatever you have available, and this is where the people who meal plan, this is where you can meal plan and develop, you know, an approach to how you're going to, you know, address your diet for that week, month, you know, even year, you know, however you want to do it. But what I'm saying is it's doable. It just, again, requires a little bit more effort on the part of the person who's going to be eating the food. Yeah.
And I think that we're going to, like, we'll talk about that point, but like where we're at, like we're busy. And
Indeed.
like, you know, like I think we're paying attention to our caloric intake and we're getting exercise when we can. But I think it's just a really good example for just like normal life. You know, we don't have a ton of free time to just spend at the gym or shopping for.
I know. I hate the gym, bro.
I hate the gym too. I mean, I had a membership like 2 years ago, and you know, when I was really starting on this journey and stuff, and it was good. But then I found, bro, that I was more comfortable just working out at home, and I was getting just as much of a workout.
Likewise. So. And it's cool because we recognize that some people need that gym membership as a motivation. But the reason I don't like the gym is because it just, in our adult lives, it just becomes another thing you have to add to the list. You know, that's why I started working out at home. But I mean, you know, do what works for you. Is discipline, again, if you have the discipline to maintain, you know, your schedule for the gym, man, you know what? Respect and love to you, you know. But I know for me, I'm like, I got to drive there, I got to this, I got to that. So then I'm like, okay, well, how can I do this without having to do that, you know? But yeah, I mean, again, it's such a broad spectrum when it comes to eating right, you know, trying to be a little more fit, trying to be healthier, you know. So the iteration is going to vary from person to person, but recognize, like we were saying earlier, with the food, you have options in that regard too, but the simple fact of the matter is you have to actually do it.
Yeah, and you know, you could start out with baby steps, and you know, that's kind of how I had to approach it, because honestly, bro, like I thought I knew something about being healthy, but I didn't really know much. And then when I started looking into it, you know, like if you're tracking your calories, like I think one way that'd be super, I mean, I think a lot of people actually recommend this, is that you get on the FitnessPal app or any other calorie tracking app. That's the only one I've used, and I've had really good luck with it. If you get on there and you're not even starting your diet, just eat how you normally would. Just like, don't even try to like, just if you were going to eat a donut and pizza in the same day, just eat it, but track it, and maybe track it for a few days. And see what calorie level you're at currently, just to see where you're at, because it's really good to just know where you're at.
Yeah, establish a baseline.
Yeah, because I mean, you might only be eating 400 calories over, and it might just be, and then what it does is the FitnessPal app tracks your macronutrients. So It takes each item you enter, and it'll take the fiber, the protein, the vitamin content, and it adds it all up as you add things throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it, according to your activity level, your weight, and your height, it gives you certain percentages and levels, like certain amount of fat, certain amount of protein, certain amount of carbs. So you can see exactly where you're at on the macronutrient level. So you could be like, whoa, I'm only 400 calories over, but I see that my macronutrients are all thrown off. Like my fat, I'm supposed to be having like, I think I get up to like 90 grams a day, but say it's like 60, you know what I mean? For someone's just a little bit, you know, lower calorie ratio, you know what I mean? So say it's like 60, and then your carbs are like, you know, 250, you know, grams or whatever. And so then you look and you see like, oh, my protein, man, I was only at like 30 grams of protein when I should have been at like 80 grams of protein. Mm-hmm. But then I was at like 100 grams of fat when I should have been at 60 grams of fat. Mm-hmm. And then my fiber was literally at like 3 grams when it should have been at 25, you know, so all these things. And then you can be like, oh, so if I got rid of that Starbucks latte, or if I just drink my coffee without the sugar and the cream, there goes that 400 calories.
Exactly.
And then look at, I just got to add in like supplement more protein. So maybe I'm going to eat this instead. And then you're just making minor adjustments. Like maybe you don't have to flip the whole script and change your whole life. Maybe it's just these minor adjustments.
Such a good point, bro. Such a good point. And then look at this. And this ties back to the whole idea of food being such a vital component in health. It's like you're like, oh, I'm trying to eat better and all this other stuff. So you start tracking what you're doing with FitnessPal, and you find out you're not too far off. So you reel that in. And then you add in like a 30-minute walk a day. These are the type of things. This is the more realistic aspect of being healthy. It doesn't mean you're going to be an athlete, but it's better than sitting on the couch for 6 straight hours eating chips. You know, so it's just how can you fit, or it's better than being like, I don't have time. And next thing you know, you're wondering why the last 6 months you've put on, 30 pounds, because a lot of us can attest to that. Yeah. I'm saying that's the reality.
Yeah, and honestly, bro, like you watch a lot of videos, people say, like, to lose weight, you don't even necessarily have to exercise. You could just be a walker and eat the proper amount of calories, and then trust the system, trust the process.
Most definitely.
And it's going to happen, bro, because you cannot, if you don't put any more substance into something, it's not going to get bigger. So if you're putting just the right amount, it can't get bigger than the amount you're putting in.
Yep.
So it's like, you really don't have to go like, you don't have to be like, all right, no carbs, everything fat-free. Gym membership,
it's that you go from 0 to 1,000. It's like, it doesn't have to be like you said. Like sometimes people think, and then they just make this drastic change that's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point. You got to find somewhere in the middle, because if you keep going from 0 to 1,000, you're always going to be back and forth. I was down 180 pounds, now I'm back to 250. You have to find something that's sensible and practical.
Yeah, and here's a good perspective for you right here too, is like the FitnessPal app, right? Like when I first downloaded it, it probably sat on my phone for like 2 months. And I was like, I know this isn't a hard thing to learn.
Right.
But I was just like anything in life, you're like, it's another thing.
Yeah, you're a bit reluctant.
I gotta learn,
change.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just another thing I gotta add in my life or learn. Is it gonna work? Is it gonna be worth my time? But then finally, I might have watched some YouTube videos about it just because I was just curious. You know what I'm saying? But
do that.
Always watch YouTube videos.
Yeah, man, especially this one.
Out there. Especially this one. But
Calorie tracker.
I didn't want to use it for like 2 months, and I was just like, oh man, is this gonna? And then the first time I tried using it, I was just having I didn't really understand how it worked. I mean, it's super simple, right? But I was just haphazardly trying to enter something. I was like, I was like, oh man, this is gonna take forever. Like I thought I had to type in all the protein and fat for each item, and I was like, what this why does anybody use this? I was just so I was just going through this process, because man, when I talk to people about using the FitnessPal at work, because they're because at one point people could tell that I had changed things just because they're like, oh, you look thinner in the face.
Yeah, it's always going to show. My machinist taught me that, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so people were asking me, and I told them, I was like, bro, I finally, I learned how to use FitnessPal, and I was doing other things at the same time. I was working out at that point too. Mm-hmm. But I had told him, I was like, man, this FitnessPal is the game changer. I was like, bro, forget diets. like use this calorie tracker, you know exactly where you stand. And I would tell people about it and they'd be like, oh yeah, but I'm not going to do that. You know, like that's too much time. That's another, but, and you know, and I was like, you know, I kind of understood, but then once I got handy with it, because what it does is you can scan barcodes. So if the item's got a barcode, you can just scan it and then it just pops up right on your screen. You got a picture. I mean, this thing's been around for a while, so it's hard to find things that aren't already in the system. And the other thing is you can just start typing in chicken breast or chicken thigh, and then all of a sudden it's going to auto-populate all these listings like chicken thigh bone in 1, you know, and then you can just change the quantity or canned chicken. You can type in Kirkland brand chicken from Costco and it'll have it in there. But even the New Season Market brand products, and New Season's Market is just like a West Coast thing. Yeah,
local to the Northwest for the most part.
Yeah, but you can scan their brand items with the barcode and it pops up New Season's Market. So I mean, pretty much I think once somebody somewhere has uploaded it, it kind of becomes part of the system in a sense.
I can believe it.
Yeah, and the other thing is for you personally, it's going to remember all the things that you normally eat. So after a few weeks, you've most likely eaten most of the things you eat on a regular basis, like your habitual diet. You know what I'm saying? So then, man, once I got especially to that point and I just felt comfortable entering it. I mean, it's super simple. And I did do some screenshot recordings of me doing it. So for some people, that's going to be silly, but we're going to have that as a separate video coming out the same day, Friday. So it'll be 2 videos you can watch. It's going to be a short one. But once I learned how to use it, man, it was like literally 3 minutes a day I was spending on my FitnessPal app, because I was just like boom, 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 because it would auto-populate. And the thing is too, is you can save meals. So like almost for a year, I was eating the same thing for breakfast. I can
believe it, bro.
Bro, I'd break my fast with oatmeal.
Yeah, we're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Know that.
Yeah.
So
anyways, I had the same oatmeal, right? Dude, it was a huge amount of oatmeal. It was like literally 2 dry cups of oatmeal, like 3 eggs, like some fruit in there. I mean, it was a huge giant bowl of oatmeal, dude. Yeah. And then like I had my protein powder in there too. It was loaded, but I'd eat the same thing every morning for a while. So you can save meals. So I would just hit that meal, boom, like 1 second I had just tracked my breakfast.
Word. Okay.
You know
That's
what I mean?
What's up. Yeah.
And then, you know, there for a while too, I was using a food scale, so I could weigh my chicken. So like I was trying to get precise. I'm like, I ate 8 ounces of chicken.
Right.
You know what I mean? But literally you can type it in, and I think it's a good place to start. If you want to get that crazy about it, you can, but I don't think that's super realistic for a lot of people. Yeah. What I think is realistic is you eat a chicken breast, you type in chicken breast in the search, and it says chicken breast 1. It's going to be an average size chicken breast, unless you know you just ate like the biggest chicken breast in the world.
Right.
You can just kind of go off of that. You know what I mean? You might give or take here, but you're going to be in a way better spot than if you're not tracking anything.
Dude, the numbers don't lie, and that's the thing. Don't lie. With my son, as far as the weight that he lost, you know what I mean? We're both about the same build, but he carries a little bit. I'd say he carries on average maybe 20 pounds more than me, maybe even 30. But yeah, he started calorie counting pretty heavily. You know, what is it? His sophomore and junior year, and man, I mean, he just, you know, and he was telling me that because he worked out every day, and same thing. He was working out a lot, not losing weight. But he said that was the key, bro. He said when I started tracking my calories, he's like, man, that's the only thing that worked. He's like, I started consistently, you know, tracking my calories, and then it worked. Yeah, and then if you put exercise on top of that, you're just like. Well, he was exercising too.
But if you're doing both, you know what I mean? But yeah, dude, if you're just doing the exercise, man, how many times have I been exercising? Like, dude, I'm not getting any results. Yeah, so I'm like, I've been doing it, and I'm still, you know, I haven't, you know, lost my love handles.
Like for a lot of men out there, you know. But yeah,
I was just gonna say, like for running a mile, I think you burn 200 calories, right? Something like that. I think that's like the average, right? So, you know, you're not exercising at all, right? You're maybe eating 1,000 calories over normally, and you're like, all right, I'm going to start running. So running a mile is a good distance for someone who hasn't been exercising. And
absolutely.
It get you sweating, all these things. And you're
heart rate up.
And if you don't know how many calories you just burned, you might think, man, I am exhausted. I haven't worked out that hard. Like I've probably burned a ton of calories. You know, just you don't know the numbers. You don't know where you're at. And then sometimes, man, I think what happens is if you're not going at it at a very like intentional way, dude, that exercise you just did might make you hungry, and you might eat more, and you might even justify it.
I ran 3 days a week this week. That means I'm going to eat pizza the next 3 days. Like, bro, hold on.
Yeah.
You might not want to. It's going to be counterproductive to what you've been doing.
Yeah. But you can do it though. I mean, it's like I said, like, dude, I'll have days like days that me and my daughter are planning to have pizza that night, right?
Exactly.
So it makes it really easy for me to fast, so I know I'm going to get pizza.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the thing, is I got someone to look forward to, right? So I got it in my head, like, I am going to get pizza tonight.
Yep.
And the other thing to remind yourself is that, unless, God forbid, you live in a place where just no food is available.
Yeah.
And I pray for you if that's the situation.
Indeed, man.
To remember that you are going to get to eat, right?
I love that point, dude.
You're going to get to eat.
That's a great point.
Like, food will be there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man.
You're going to get to eat. And so just having that time, and dude, to be honest, like that fasted state, like before I break my fast,
I love it,
bro. Like it's not hallucinogenic in a sense.
No,
but
I don't think so.
I feel like super in tune with my body. And even though I might feel like I don't want to go run a marathon right at the moment, because I don't have any calories to burn.
Mm-hmm.
I love that feeling. And like, for me, it's become super important just to really value food and to slow down before you just throw it in your face, to be intentional, like thinking about, you want to get spiritual about your temple, bro. You're given this temple, bro, and you want to respect it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that kind of changed it for me was when I was married, my wife at the time, she kind of helped me make a lot of changes by bringing things to my attention. One of the things she did was told me about labels. Mm-hmm. People will sit up here and they're like, oh, this is so healthy. But then you start looking at the label and you see fat. Mm-hmm. Not fat in the sense that fat is bad, but fat calories. And that's where a lot of times, they'll get you. Like, or you see a lot of empty calories, like sugar calories. And sometimes in a lot of food, you see both. Yeah. But reading the labels in many cases is really it's gonna be the telltale. Well, it's going to tell the tale of what you're about to eat and what's going to go down when you consume this food. And sometimes, if it's helpings or portions or individually wrapped, more than one, right, of this thing, right, serving of this thing. Mm-hmm. So you have to be cognizant of this before, again, you take it into your temple. Read the labels. What is it? 5 ingredients or less. A lot of times for the whole food, type people, which I'm kind of part of. But the lower the ingredients in many cases, the better. But if you start seeing things, that don't make sense, like in that book that, my wife at the time was reading, the Food Inc. book, he talks about food and food-like substances. We've gotten to the habit of consuming a lot of food-like substances or letting food-like substances be okay in our food. Mm-hmm. And like I said, our body doesn't like that. And these can also be things that can cause you to hold on to water or to have issues with your blood sugar. There's so many things that can complicate, just our health and our reaction and just our way of being with food when you're taking in things that aren't necessary. Like, you wouldn't eat guar gum on its own, right? Mm-hmm. Or you wouldn't just be like, let me get a cup of that preservative. You're not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
But in your food, like, but you have to remain cognizant of that, because at some point you got to pay the piper. So trying to do a better job of making a more educated choice of what you put into your body.
Yeah. And if you maybe don't have as many options for your diet just because of your situation, then maybe make the better choice when you have the option.
Absolutely.
So then at least you're getting some balance. So then when you have an option to eat something.
That political approach, the lesser of two evils. That's about all the politics we can talk about here. We ain't getting into politics, y'all. That's about close it's going to get. But yeah, you can do that with food, though. The lesser of two food evils, right? So. Yeah. I mean, and that's just the reality of it, because your body's going to eventually tell you, like, look, man, you need to stop eating these things because I'm not digging this, And it can tell you in so many different ways. It can tell you through sickness. It can tell you through, how you feel when you eat it. It can tell you through chronic pain. There's so many things that are related to food. That's a huge one. Chronic pain. And speaking of that, getting to the whole 30, bro.
People's diet.
What were you going to say, bro? Go ahead.
I was just saying, some people aren't aware of the foods that are in their diet that are negatively affecting their body, like inflammation or just
big time,
retaining water or just feeling bloated. Like, I can't eat like a lot of I can't eat like a lot of hummus, mm-hmm. like just beans in general, even mm-hmm. like lentils and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is considered to be a really like healthy thing to eat.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's a good protein, especially for like vegetarians and stuff. But I just know that that's something that does not sit well with me. You know what I mean? In large amounts at all.
You know, bro, there's a degree of pathology to stuff like that too, and this is to me the cool part, because we look at where we may come from or even our lineage, and we see some of the foods that we consume. You know, because we have a multitude of foods available to us in this country, for us that live in this country, don't necessarily sit well with us from a pathological standpoint. Like me being of African, you know, descent, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm from America, but I'm saying my ethnic origin. It's not common to drink cow's milk there. So, and there's a lot of people who are, you know, of the same ethnicity as me that can relate to the fact that we don't always process cow's milk so well, you know? So.
Yeah, definitely. I think those things would be aware of. I've heard the whole like thing with milk too, that the milk was always meant for baby calves and that we were really never meant to consume.
Right. There's so many things about that, but at the end of the day, I know when I drink it, I'm like, you know, I'm like, man, why's my stomach? Oh man, you know, I know it's like an immediate thing. Yeah. So I recognize I might want to be cool, you know, and not have that. Like my daughter, when she was little, we gave her goat's milk because she reacted much more favorably to that, you know, because, you know, I'm of African ethnicity, and my wife at the time, she's you know, her family's they're Chinese, you know, they're from Canton province. Neither of us were good with cow's milk, so we're like, we might want to be cool with the cow's milk thing. Yeah. What are you gonna say?
No, just being aware of those things, and you know, you can talk to a dietitian. You know, that's always good. But there's also the similar things where you have like an idea of something that might be bothering you, or you could just, what do they call it, where you just remove certain things from your diet for a certain amount of time, and then you slowly reintroduce them.
Well, Whole30's like that, though.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, Whole30's just like that.
But like with dairy, man, I would say like dairy would be a good one to like, if you're having stomach issues or like you're saying, because bro, I can't really do dairy either. I can do cheese.
Same here.
I can do cheese, but like, man, like milk and like yogurt and ice cream just kill me. Like I'll do it every once in a while, but I know that I'm gonna have
to pay. It's the same here, bro. Same here. Yeah. Man, this has been pretty good, man. I mean, I'm digging this, man.
Yeah.
You know, I think we gotta. And the cool thing about it is, he's way more familiar with MyFitnessPal, but I'm looking at what he's doing. I'm realizing I can benefit from it. But we both have a lot that we can bring, and you know, even just in the conversation we've had today, man. You know, there's just so many different. Again, there's so many different options that we have, and I think that's the thing that people need to understand. There's options. We're barely even scratching the surface here with what we're talking about. What we're trying to do is give you know, everyone a more realistic way of looking at this and recognizing that all of us can do this. You know, not anything to feel guilty or bad about, but just recognize, you know, we pause for a second and figure out what our approach is going to be, and then over time develop what works best for you.
Yeah. And just to be encouragement, because, you know,
absolutely.
We're coming from, you know, we both have kids, and we both have to work, and we both have to clean our house and do chores. And I mean, especially we're both bachelors, you know what I mean? Or we're both, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it's like life is busy, and like, you know, it's like I don't have the finances to go to Whole Foods and buy whatever I want. You know what I mean? So this is realistic. You know, we're operating on a real level here, and we're able to find someone that works for us. So that's kind of the angle I think we want to come at it, to be encouraging.
Practicality
is something you can really like, you know, put into your life. Is it something you want to do?
Most definitely, man.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, and what we're going to be starting the Whole30 the 1st of April, so I look forward to that, and you know, whatever other aspect of, you know, the fitness that we're going to be bringing, like with dealing with the personal trainer and stuff like that. But we'll just give y'all, you know, our take on how we do it, and then hopefully, you know, y'all can glean something from that. You know, that's the whole idea behind it.
Yeah, I've been trying not to change anything up leading up to next month, but I have to admit that, like, I did the calorie tracker again, because I've kind of gotten to the point, like, I used the FitnessPal for like a year and a half. Like, literally, I didn't miss a day for a year, I think.
Wow, man.
Yeah, like, it keeps track of how many days you do in a row, and I think I did it straight for like over a year.
Okay.
But at that point, I felt like, man, I had it so figured out with how many calories. I just kind of knew, like, oh, you know, and I wasn't, I had a real precise goal at one point.
That's what's up.
And then I just kind of wanted to stay healthy. And, and I didn't want to, I wasn't as focused, but I knew that I was still staying within the proper calorie ratio, because I had like kind of trained myself. You know what I mean? So.
Well, it's like anything, bro. You know, this is something I learned from training in other sports and stuff. If it's a constant thing, but it varies even along the way. You might hit it hard sometime, other times you might dial it back. It's gonna fluctuate. You just want to stay, again, somewhere around that mean. You want to establish what your mean is and try and stay there. Sometimes you'll be on there like, laser focus. Other times you might, deviate a little bit, but you're not going off in the upper volta somewhere, away that distance from the mean. You gotta, work to try and establish the mean and then kind of hold that. You think, my body likes this much caloric intake and, whatever exercise, or even exercise this many days a week or whatever.
No doubt.
Figure out what works, and recognize that you're going to fluctuate, and that's part of the practicality and the reality. But, again, just doing it.
Yeah, and just trusting the process. And, once you start to get some results, man, I swear by the calorie tracker, bro. Like, and once you start seeing
I like that.
those, dude, I swear
about a calorie tracker.
I swear by the calorie tracker. But I
love it.
It's funny. My grandma, she was able to stay healthy her whole life. I mean, she smoked when she was younger, like a lot of people did back then.
Man, right?
But in her adult life, bro, she did track her calories, but she would write them down on paper because
she's hardcore,
bro. And she would walk every single day, and she was kind of like, it's always been there. And
nice.
I think it's what it is.
Isn't it funny how
we get
is?
So caught up because it's a way to make money. People can sell us on these diets, and I'm not saying like some of them can work, right? But it's like if you're still eating the improper amount of calories, you're still gonna have the same issues.
Exactly.
What I mean? So,
again, back to the whole. You got to do it. There's no miracle drug, no miracle. Sip this, put it in your water. It's not like that. You're gonna do it or you don't do it.
Yeah.
But you can't. You don't have to hit the ground running. No. You can baby step and then walk and so on and so forth. And then when you're ready to run, you run.
Like I said, you could just start tracking exactly how you're eating and not telling yourself you're even going to change anything. And then just maybe look at it after a week and be like, oh, you know what? If I change this little thing, and that wouldn't be too hard. Because honestly, a lot of times that's just like, I eat it because it's there. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, well, I'm going to change that. And then you made one change, and then you start to see the little progress. And it's just like, it's all laid out in front of you instead of this like mystery cloud in your brain of like, what do I do or whatever, you know what I mean? Or
like you got to go pay a dietitian, like, just slow down.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just like habits, bro. Like I had a habit where like I would feel starving right before bed.
Yep.
And I would eat 3 bowls of cereal.
Oh, wow.
Dude, that's like 1,200 calories.
Yeah, that's wild right there, man.
Right before bed. Bro. And that was me not being conscious or like aware.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I'm hungry, and the taste was so good that I just wanted it again. I mean, that didn't happen to me all the time, but I would get moments like that where I'm just like, I don't even care, I'm tired. And that's another thing, bro. Like, if you're having a hard time controlling like hunger spikes, you're having a hard time having like obsessive eating, look at your sleep. If you're not getting proper sleep, then you know what I mean? It's all connected. You know what I mean? You're not setting yourself up to be in that prime position to make good decisions. So, one day maybe like try to get more sleep before you go from 0 to 100 with some crazy diet.
Exactly. What I mean? No, dude. Yeah. I mean, I think overall the practicality, the realistic aspect, and then a holistic approach to all of this. I mean, that's really what is all contained and a number of other things under the umbrella of of health, right? I mean, because so many people will define it differently, but these are all things that we can all benefit from. So this has been dope, though, man. I dug this, man. And we'll be back again with more of this, man. And we're just glad we can share. And let us know in the comments, man, if you want to see more or something there, like T, man, you tripping? Let me know. No problem.
Yeah, if there's someone you want us to talk about, and don't be shy. I know our following at the moment's small and stuff because we're building, but
we are building,
bro. We want to build with you, so let us know in the comments what you want us to talk about, because we're not scared to get into some stuff and
not at all,
talk about it,
because we're trying to learn too. So
yeah, and honestly, bro, I'm excited to be doing this just for the motivation for me, right?
Facts, man.
Both of us. So.
Yep. Y'all can hold us accountable, among other things. So.
Exactly, and laugh at us, maybe.
Oh, that's easy to do.
Yeah, that'll be easy.
You can always laugh at me. So.
Yeah, me too.
All right, bro. Cool. Peace, y'all. Thank you.
Y'all. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
That's why I chip on the shoulder, back against the wall. Face talk like it's heavy, but they mimicking the fall. Man, too tall. Got to reach your mind. Empowerment's wrapped and taped.